Okay, week 10, Matthew chapters 11 through 20. In these chapters, we're going to continue to learn about the life of Jesus through his teachings, his parables, his miracles. And one of the themes in these verses is that God doesn't care about meaningless religious acts. We see in Matthew 12, verse 9, Jesus went over to the synagogue and he noticed a man with a deformed hand. The Pharisees, the spiritual religious leaders in the Jewish church, asked Jesus, does the law permit a person to work by healing on the Sabbath? See, they knew the answer was no. They were hoping that Jesus would say yes so they could bring charges against him. Jesus answered, verse 11, if you had a sheep that fell into a well on the Sabbath, wouldn't you work to pull it out? Of course you would. I love how Jesus always answered their questions with his own question. And he says, how much more valuable is a person than a sheep? So yes, the law permits a person to do good on the Sabbath. Man, what a powerful response Jesus had to those spiritual leaders. In verse 13, so then Jesus said to the man, he didn't just teach them this truth, but he finished it with a miracle. He turns to them, he said to the man, hold out your hand. So the man held out his hand, and it was restored just like the other one. And then the Pharisees called a meeting to plot how to kill Jesus. Instead of trying to just sort of throw a zinger back at him, they realized they were kind of stuck now, but in secret now they began to plot to kill him, and eventually that was successful. They're the ones that helped get Jesus on the cross. Now, Jesus had another encounter with the Pharisees later on. They were upset that his disciples didn't follow the Jewish hand-washing rituals. So look at how Jesus responded to them about this. Jesus called the crowd to come and hear. He said this, listen, try to understand this. It's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you. You're defiled by the words that come out of your mouth. Again, he was turning upside down what they thought God cared about, what the outward religious rituals. He said in verse 18, the words you speak come from the heart, and that's what defiles you. For from the heart come evil thoughts and murder, adultery, all sexual immorality, theft, lying, and slander. These are what defile you. Eating with unwashed hands will never defile you. See, God doesn't care about meaningless religious acts. He cares about our hearts. Remember that. Jesus came to teach that, not just to teach that, but he came to set us free. He came to set our hearts free from this defiled nature and this sin, and he did that by dying on the cross. Now, why don't you pause and talk about it, and after you do that, make sure you tackle some of the other extra videos in the playlist to go with this week's readings.